Hello everyone and welcome to Simplilearn's YouTube channel. Today in this video we will discuss everything about validation in JavaScript. We'll start this video with regular expressions in JavaScript. We'll go through certain different topics like meta characters, character sets and ranges, and shorthand character class. Then we'll move on to form validation in JavaScript and we'll see how regular expressions are used to validate a user's input in JavaScript. So before we begin, make sure that you have subscribed to our YouTube channel and press that bell icon to never miss an update from Simplilearn. So without any further delay, let's get started. Have you guys ever heard about validation or pattern matching in JavaScript? We come across these terms when we hear about passwords mostly, right? So we say that we can use the if-else statement to match if the user's password matches with the one we already have. For that, we write if password is equals to some sort of string or characters. And then we see if the password matches, we'll let the user enter, otherwise the entry will be denied. So we are discussing all that because regular expressions are objects used to perform pattern matching. Or if we want to search for something in a string, or even if we want to replace something from a string, we can do it all with regular expressions. So we'll go through the syntax for regular expressions and some more important things about regular expressions in JavaScript. So regular expressions are present in almost every programming language. It's not limited to JavaScript only. And the concept remains the same everywhere. The syntax may differ a bit between different languages, but the logic behind them will always be the same. The name might be a little bit confusing, but the reality is entirely different. They are pretty easy to use, and if you understand the basics clearly, you'll face no problem while working on advanced topics. So let's go through the regular expressions before we move on to validations using regular expressions in JavaScript. So let's understand the concept entirely so that it will be easy for you guys in further videos. So consider a scenario where we have a string and we want to find a particular word in that string. Or we can say we are in a static website. I hope you guys are aware of the term static, where we have the search option to find some word in the entire HTML document. We have to write the word in the search box and it will return us the location of that word in the HTML file or in the website, right? What we'll do now is we'll use a word and we'll find that word in a string. We'll make some changes to that word with the help of several functions used along with regular expressions in JavaScript. So the syntax for regular expressions goes like this. We'll move to a JavaScript file and we'll take a variable here. So let's say the variable is var regex and we use 2 forward slashes for it. Generally we use the double slash for comments, but it will be recognized as a regular expression in JavaScript if we write something inside these double slashes. So let's say we are writing something here. Let's say we write here hello. Now this word hello is present inside the variable regex and this word needs to be searched in a string. So let's use a string as well. So for that we'll write here where, let's say the string name is str1. Let's say we are writing here welcome to a YouTube channel, full stop. Say hello if you are new here. Fine. So let's say this is the string we have. Now this string contains the word hello in it. All we have to keep in mind is to add the main keyword in the string for now. Moving ahead, what we want to do is we want to find this word in the string, right? We want to find this hello word in the string. So next up we'll go through certain essential functions which we use with regular expressions and we'll see the functioning of these essential functions. The first function is the exec function. So let me write here guys. This is the first function, exec function. Now this function returns an array if the word is present in the string. Otherwise it will return null if the word is not present in the string. The syntax is pretty straightforward. All we have to do is to use the exec function with the variable that contains the regular expression. Now in this case the word regex contains the regular expression. We have to use it with the function and the string name will be passed as a parameter to this function. So let's write the syntax here and it will be easy for you guys. So let's comment it out and we'll write here, let's say we are taking another variable where output. We'll write here the variable name dot function name. We'll write here exec, and the string will be passed as a parameter. Fine. So this is the syntax. Now this output variable over here will have an array, and the array will return the index number of the word hello in the string. Fine. So let's print this array on the console, and we'll write here console.log output. Fine. Save it and open the console. So we'll move to our browser and we'll open console here. See here we have an array, and if we click on this array we can see that we have the word hello at index 36. So if we count from here, and the counting should start from 0 because array index always starts from 0. So at index 36 we can find that hello is over here. And so it will return the index of this particular word. Now if we write here something else other than hello, let's say we are writing here 2. Save it now, and you can see here we have 2 present at index 8. So if we count from here we can see that 2 is present at index 8. So this is working totally fine. Now another scenario is if we write here 2 with a capital T. Save it now, and you can see here the output is null. Why so? Because regular expressions in JavaScript are case sensitive. Case sensitive means it differentiates between the capital letters and small letters. Fine. But the good part is we can make them in case sensitive as well. So all we have to do is we have to use a modifier. A modifier is actually used to make modifications in the search. So what we have to do is we have to write here in the beginning, we have to write a single letter, and in this case we'll write here I, because this modifier will tell the system that there will be no problem with the case sensitivity of the word now. It will work fine. And if we save this program, we can see we have the output as index 8. Now if we change this string and we'll write here something other than this. So we'll write here HELLO, but the 3 letters of this word are capital letters. So save it now, and you can see we have the output as index 36. So this is working fine. Now one last situation is if we write here more than one hello in a single string. So if we write here hello and welcome to our YouTube channel. Now there are 2 hello words present in a single string. Save it, and you can see we have the word hello at index 0. So it will return the first hello word in the string. Now if we want to get access of the second hello, and if we write here this piece of code again, what we are expecting is we are expecting it to give us the index of second hello as well, but it will not happen. Save it, and you can see it will give the index of first hello twice. You can see here we have index as 0 in both the arrays, right? So it will not work. Now the solution to this problem is modifiers again. What we have to do is we have to use another modifier here. Now we have to write here the letter G and save it. Now this is returning null because we have the string wrong here. So we have to write here hello because we have removed the in case sensitive modifier. Save it now, and you can see we have both the hello words with indexes as 0 and 46 respectively. So this global modifier tells the system that the word is now global, and if you find the word once and the user tries the exec function again, then the second time you should return the index value of the second word. So this is how it actually works. Now the following function we are going to discuss is a pretty simple one, the test function. Now this function returns either true or false, nothing else. This function checks for a particular word that if the word exists in a string, then it will return true, otherwise false. It will not return the index value or some sort of other things. It deals with the boolean value only, that is true or false. So that's it for the function. Let's see how this function works actually. So what we'll do is we'll mention here this test function and we'll comment this piece of code so that there will be no confusion. We'll comment it out. Now we'll go through the syntax of this test function. The syntax is pretty easy. We'll use the output variable again and we'll write here variable name dot function name, and the string name will be passed as a parameter. Now the next thing we'll do is we'll write here console.log and we'll print this on a console. Fine. So this is the syntax for test function. Save it, and here you can see in the console that for the word hello it returns true. If we change this word here to something else, like if we write here hi instead of hello, save it, and you can see the output is changed to false because hi is not there inside a string, right? Because hi does not exist according to this string. So this is how the test function actually works. Now one more thing I want to mention here about the test function is if we write here some part of a word, not the whole word but some part. So let's say if we write here ELL, now this is the part of hello word. Now what if we save this? You can see the output here is true. That's because the test function checks for every letter, and if it finds these 3 letters in any word, it will return true in that case as well. Fine. Next up, we have another function to use with the regular expressions in JavaScript. Now the next function's name is match function. I'll write it here. First I'll comment these 2 statements, and then I'll write here the name of this function. So the name is match. Now this match function returns an array of results, otherwise null. The syntax for this function is exactly opposite from the previous functions, because we'll pass the regular expression as a parameter to this function now, and the function will be used along with the string. So it is completely opposite to the syntax we used for the previous 2 functions. So we'll write here for this, we'll use the output variable again. We'll write here where output, and instead of regex we'll use it with the string. So we'll write here str1.match, and the variable name will be passed as a parameter. Fine. So this is how the syntax for match function looks like. It's exactly opposite to the syntax we used for previous 2 functions. The next line will remain the same. We'll write here console.log and we'll print output on a screen. Fine. Now we have to do one more thing here. What's that is, we have to remove this modifier from here and we have to write here hello. So save it, and you can see we have an array over here. Now what if we want to find both the words in a string? If we want to check if there's more than one word with the similar name. So what we have to do is we have to write here G, and if you save it now, you can see the output is completely changed, and now we have an array with 2 similar words. What if we add another hello here? So let's say we have another hello here. Save it, and you can see here the array size is increased to 3 now. Now we are left with one more method, and the method we are going to discuss now is pretty important because we'll use this method in future as well. So the last method is the replace method, which is used to replace something from a string. We can either replace the first matching word or all the matching words from a string. If we are using the global modifier, then all the words will be replaced. Otherwise the first matching word will be replaced. So the syntax for this method goes like this. What we have to do is, so let's comment it out first and we'll go through the syntax of final method. So the final method is replace method. Fine. So the syntax goes like this. We'll use the output variable again, and we'll write here str1 dot replace because we want to replace something in that particular string. The first parameter will be the variable name. We'll write here regex, comma, and then we'll pass the word we want to change. So hello will be changed with, let's say in this case, hi. Fine. Now check over here that if we are using any modifier, so we are using global modifier here. Now if we print this on a console, if we write a console.log and we are writing here output, if we save it now, we'll get to know that all the hello words in the string are replaced with the word hi. Save it, and you can see over here that hi and welcome to our YouTube channel. Say hi if you are new here, and then we have a hi. You can see that all the hello words are replaced with the word hi. Now if we remove this global modifier from here and if we save it now, you can see only the first hello word is replaced. The other hello words are here and there will be no change in them because we are not using the global modifier now. In the previous video, where we came across regular expressions in JavaScript, we saw different predefined functions that we use for finding a particular expression present inside a string, right? Like the predefined functions, we also have some JavaScript characters that make the searching part easy. So these characters are used within the expressions and help us in different ways. For example, let's consider a scenario where we have a regular expression and we want to find a particular word within the string. But we don't remember the whole word. Let's say we forgot the word with time. And now we remember only a part of that word. So let's do the same side by side. And what we'll do is we'll go to our JavaScript file and we'll take three variables. We'll write here let regex is equals to, then we'll write here let str1 is equals to, and then finally we'll write where output is equals to. Fine. Now here we have three variables. The variable regex will store a regular expression within it. We haven't returned the word yet. Next up, we have a variable str1 to store the string and a variable output to store the output returned by a function. The function we'll use will be any one of the ones we used in the previous video. So let's do it here. The word, let's say the word will be welcome. Fine. You can take any word you want. Now moving on to the string, let's write the string as well. We'll write here welcome to our YouTube channel, and then we'll write another welcome here. Fine. We'll discuss the reason why we wrote welcome twice. Now if you guys remember from the previous video where we have used the test function to check the availability of a word present in a string or not, we'll use the same function again. So we'll write here variable name dot function name. So the function name is test, and then we'll pass the string name as a parameter. So we'll write here str1. That's fine. And finally what we'll do is we'll print this on our console. So we'll write here console.log output. Fine. Now we already know the output for this piece of code, right? The output will be true. That's obvious because we have the word welcome present in our string, not once but twice. The output will remain true if we remove the first welcome from this string. Let's do it here. Let's save the program first and then we'll move to the console. And you can see here the output says true for the word welcome present in the string str1. That's true, right? And now if we remove this welcome word from here, and if we save it, you can see the output still remains true because we have another welcome word present in the string, right? So this is how the test function actually works. We'll put the welcome word here again. We already know the functioning of this test function. The main point of discussion here is the meta characters. So meta characters are characters with special meanings, like the dot character. If we write this regular expression, like we can remove any one character from this word and put a dot in its place. Let's do it. We'll remove a random character and write dot here. So let's say we are removing L. Fine. And instead of L, we are putting a dot here. Now the dot character here will replace this character and the system will not throw any error. It will still find the word. We can also use exec function here to check the index number of the word. So what we'll do is we'll take another variable and we'll do the same. We'll write here regex dot exec and then we'll pass the string name as parameters. Fine. We'll copy this console.log from here and we'll paste it here. The variable name is op. Save it, and here you can see we have the output as true for the test function, and for the exec function it returns the index number 0 of the word in the string. Now the system automatically puts a L in place of the dot character. Similarly, if you want to do the same thing for more than one character, we have another meta character for that. It's not that we can't use this dot operator, but we can use it for a limited time. like we can use it for a single character. But if we want to put more than one character and we don't know the number of the characters, so then we have another meta character for that. The meta character is asterisk. Now this asterisk allows us to put multiple characters within a particular expression. For example, if we write here, let's remove all this and we'll put star or asterisk in place of all the characters in between. So save it, and you can see the output returns true for test function, and for the exec function the index is 0. Now if we write here something like that, and we don't know what it is, but let's assume it. So if we save it now, you can still see the output returns true for this as well, because now we can put any number of characters in between W and E. The only thing that matters is the first and the last character of the word welcome. Now the next character we'll be looking at does not work the same way as these characters. The caret character works upon a whole string. Let's go through the syntax, and what we'll do is we'll remove this unwanted piece of code, and then we'll come here, we'll write here welcome again, and now we'll put this caret character. Now the caret character is this character. So what this character returns is, this character returns true only if the whole string starts with the word welcome. The second welcome word does not even exist for this meta character. If we save this program now, it will return true because welcome is present at the start of this string, right? So save it, and you can see the output is true. Now if we remove this welcome from here, and if we save this program now, we know that we have another welcome present in the string, but this character does not work that way, and it will return false because the string starts with 2 now, right? Save it, and here you can see the output is false for test function, and for exec function the output is null. It will not return any index number of the second welcome or some sort of thing. So this is how the caret character works in JavaScript. The next meta character does the same thing, but for the end of the string. The symbol is $, and it checks for the end part of the string. This meta character is placed at the end of a regular expression, and it checks if the string ends with characters present in the expression. The syntax goes like this. What we'll do is we'll remove this caret character and we'll put a $sign here. Now this statement now will check if the string ends with the word welcome or not. In this case, the last word of the string is back, right? Not welcome. So the output will be false. Save it, and you can see here the output is false and null. Suppose we write here back in place of welcome. Now what we'll do is we'll write here back in place of welcome, and if we save this program now, the output will change to true because back is the last word present in a string, right? So this character checks for the end of the string. Save it, and you can see the output is changed to true and the index number is 32. Fine, the exec function will return the index number of the word back. The last meta character we will discuss in this video is the optional meta character. The question mark symbol represents this meta character, and the functioning be like any character before this symbol is treated as optional. This means that it doesn't matter if the character is present in the string or not. For example, if we write here, let's say we'll write here welcome again because welcome has more characters than back, and we'll write here welcome as well. Fine. Now let's make some changes in this particular regex expression. So what we'll do is we'll put a question mark here, and let's say we'll put another question mark here. Fine. Now if we remove C and E from the string or any one of them, then also the function will work fine and the output will be true. Let's do it, and what we'll do is we'll make some changes in this particular string, and we are going to remove some characters from this string. So we have two welcome words here, and what we'll do is we'll remove C from this one, and we have two optional characters, right? Both C and E are optional, but for now we are removing C only. So the string looks like this. We have the word vellum. It doesn't mean anything, but for understanding purposes we have done it. So save it, and you can see the output remains true for vellum. Now, what if we put any other word in place of this character? Let's say we are writing here B. Fine. The output will change. We have to put an O as well because O is not an optional character. Now, the output will change. As we were discussing, if we save this program, you can see it says true for now. But it is saying true because of this welcome. Now, if we remove this welcome from here and if we save it now, you can see the output is changed to null. Yes, these characters are optional, but we can't put any character in place of them. We have two options only. Either we can put C in its place or we can leave it. So there's no other option with the optional characters. So these are the few meta characters present in regular expressions, which helps in validation a lot. We came across meta characters in Regex in the previous video, where we saw how to check the availability of a particular word or expression within a string. We know about functions as well. So today we will combine all these things to some extent, and we'll see how basic validation actually works in JavaScript. We'll see an example wherein we'll go through the character sets and ranges and check for some specific type of validation in this video. Now, the topic character sets and ranges itself is a pretty explanatory topic, and we can get an idea of what's coming just by going through the words. Characters in layman term refers to alphabets and numbers, right? We see a character on a daily basis and we know a lot about them. Now, if I write here A, we can say that this is a character in JavaScript. Now, we can use one single character or a group of characters at a time with regular expressions in JavaScript. We have a particular syntax for it. We'll go through the syntax first, and the syntax is like we have to use square brackets and we have to write characters in between these brackets or inside these brackets. Here we have three characters A, B and C. What we can do is we can give instructions to the system to use any one of them in a regular expression. So let's take a small example of how this actually works with regular expressions. And what we'll do is we'll do the same thing we have been doing till now. We'll search a word within a string. We'll check that if a word exists within a string or not. So we'll do it like we'll take a variable regex that will contain the regular expression. So this is the syntax for regular expression, and this is our regular expression which says DEF. So in actual this is not a word, but assume it as a word for now. And what we have to do is we have to include character sets with this regular expression, right? So we'll write here inside square brackets ABC. Now the next thing is we'll define the string. Let's say the string name is tr1 and the string says this string contains ADEF. So DEF, or we can say ADEF, is what matters the most for now. So anything else you can write on the string. The next thing we are going to do is we are going to use the test function to check if this particular regular expression is available in the string or not. So we'll write here regex.test, and inside this we'll pass the string as a parameter. Now the last thing we'll do is we'll write here console.log and we'll print this on our console. Fine. We are done with it. So what we are doing here is we want to search the string for a word which contains the letter DEF compulsory. But before DEF, we can have a character. That character can either be A, B or C. No other character will be taken in front of DEF because we have defined a character set as well, right? And that character set contains only three characters, A, B and C. So here you can see we have ADEF present in the string and we have A along with DEF. So what we are expecting is this test function should return true, right? So save it and check for the output in the console. So we'll go to our console. And here you can see the output says true because we have ADEF only. Now, if we write here anything else, like if we replace this A with the character R, save it, and you can see the output is false because R is not present inside this character set. Now, what if we write here something like, let's say we are writing here Kaushal DEF. Now this will check for this letter only, for this L only. Other letters don't actually matters in this case. In the case of character sets, the only character that matters is the character right before the regular expression. So if we save it, you can see the output is changed to false. And if we write here, let's say Kaushal ADEF, save it, and you can see the output is true because it checks for this character only. Fine. Talking about ranges, let's say we want to add any character in the string between A to Z. Now we have two options to do so. First one is we can write A, B, C till Z here, like we'll write here D, E, F, G, H, I, and so on and so forth till Z. But this task is a little bit lengthy, right? And we have to spend a lot of time in that process. So the alternate to this process is to define a range of characters. To define a range of characters, it's quite an easy task. All you have to do is write A hyphen Z. So this is how you can define a range of characters. Now this range will consist every character from A till Z. A and Z will also be included. Keep this thing in mind. If we write here Kaushal DEF again, so we have seen in the previous example that it returned false for this, right? Save it now and you can see the output is still true. That's because now we have a range from A till Z. If we write here 5 now it will return false because 5 does not lies in between this range, in between A to Z. So it will return true for any character between A till Z. Fine. Now let's say we want to exclude some particular characters from this range, like we don't want the user to include D, E, F again, no character from D, E or F. So the syntax for that is also pretty easy. We have to use the caret operator and we have to write here but we don't want to include. So let's say in this case we don't want to include D, E, F. Fine. So if we write here D, D, E, F now and save it, you can see it will return false because we have included D, D, E, F. And if we write here A, D, E, F, save it, and you can see the output is true. Now we can't include characters D, E and F in front of this regular expression because we have defined this character set to not include these characters in the regular expression. So these are characters and ranges in regular expressions. So the next thing we'll be doing is we'll be going through a basic validation example and we'll see how actually basic validation works in JavaScript. What we'll do is we'll create a small HTML form that will take the employee ID from the user and it will check if the employee belongs to the organization or not. So let's say the employee ID of the organization has some unique characters present in it and the character remains there in each employee ID. The idea is simple. We'll take the ID from the user and we'll use the if-else control statement to check if it belongs to the organization or not. So let's move on to the HTML file and we'll create a placeholder and a button. So let's do it. We'll write here form and inside this form tag let input ID is equals to EID and placeholder is equals to employee ID and type is equals to text. Fine. The next thing we are going to do is we are going to include a button as well, and we are going to call a function on clicking. So we'll use the on click event. So we'll write here on click and let's say the function name is employee. And the button name is, let's say, submit. Save it and you can see over the browser that we have a placeholder along with the button. So let me give a space here, save it now, and you can see we have a placeholder and a button. So that's all what we have to do in HTML part. Now the rest of the thing we'll be doing in the JavaScript file. So let's move to a JavaScript file and comment this piece of code first. Now what we want is we want to call a function employee on clicking the submit button. Fine. So what we'll do is we'll define a function employee and inside the body of this function the first thing we will be doing is we'll be taking the user's ID, right? So we need a variable for that. So let's say the variable is empid and we'll write here document dot get element by ID. The ID is EID dot value. Fine. Now this emp ID variable will hold the value entered by the user, right? So like if we write here something like D2386, so let's say this is the ID, this will be stored, the value for this ID will be stored inside this emp ID variable. Fine. Now we'll use the regular expression to check for some special characters. So we'll write here inside the function, we'll write here where check is equals to, inside the regular expression we'll write something. So let's say we want to start the employee ID for the development team with the alphabets D and E, and each ID will have a similar numeric code like 253 which represents the code for a particular team. Fine. So we'll write here inside the character sets, we want DE to be there before a similar numeric code, right? So 253 is the numeric code and we want to include either D or E before that, right? And after 253, let's say we have a range of numbers that each employee ID has a unique 2-digit number. The ID should look like either D25311 or either E25361, something like that, right? Now, so for that what we have to do is we have to include here another range, and this range will be from 11, this range will be from 10 till 99. Fine. This looks a bit complex now, but if you try to do it by yourself, believe me guys, you'll find it out that this is an easy task but a little lengthy, we can say. Now the next part is we have to validate the ID entered. For that we have to use the if-else control statement along with the test function. So we have to write here if check dot test, and inside this we'll write emp ID, because emp ID is the variable which is holding the value entered by the user, right? So if it's true, then it will return an alert box with the message that says valid employee ID. Fine. Else it will return a message in the pop-up which will say invalid ID. Fine. So this if-else statement will check the value returned by the test function. If the value returned is true, it will return a message valid employee ID. Otherwise the else statement will run and the user will get a pop-up with the message invalid email ID. Fine. Let's check the output, and in the browser here we'll write the employee ID in the given placeholder. So let's say the employee ID is D25319. Submit it and you can see it says valid employee ID. We can do it for some more, like if we write here E25398. Submit it and you can see it still says valid employee ID. Now what if we want to include any character between this range and the unique number, right? So let's try to do it. We'll write here D253K89. Fine. So let's say this is the ID we want to enter. Submit it and you can see it says invalid employee ID. Fine. Now one more thing we want to do here is, like if we write here D253 89, in this case it will return false or invalid employee ID. Why? Because we haven't included any modifier here and it will differentiate between uppercase and lowercase character. So to overcome this problem, what we can do is we can include the in case sensitive modifier and we are clearly good to go. Now if we write here D25398 and save it, if we write here now D25398, submit it and you can see here the output says valid employee ID. So this is how we can use validation along with regular expressions. In the last video, we came across character sets and ranges. We saw how we could use them with regular expressions, and we also saw how to validate a user's input with the help of character sets and ranges along with regular expressions. Now in this video, we'll look at the shorthand character classes present within regular expressions, and we'll see how they are helpful in JavaScript. If you guys remember, the regular expression we used became a bit confusing and lengthy because we have used so many ranges and character sets all in one, right? A character class can be used to overcome this particular problem, and we have several character classes present in JavaScript. So today we will go through them in this particular video. Now, the syntax is not too much complicated. All we have to do is to write a single character with a backslash and we are good to go. For example, if we go to a JavaScript file and if we write here \d. Now, if we write this character before any regular expression in JavaScript, it means that we have added a character class to a regular expression. This \d is a character class used for finding a digit within a string. Let's go through an example for this character class. And we'll do the same thing. We'll take a string and try to find a regular expression within that string. So what we'll do is we'll write here where regex is equals to, and here we'll write a regular expression. First we'll take up a string and use some functions to check the output. So let's do it here. What we'll do is we'll take another variable. Let's say the variable name is str1 and the string says user's phone number is 98765432110. Now let's say this is the string we are using for today's program. The next thing we'll do is we'll use the exec function to find the regular expression within the string. So we have already gone through this exec function in JavaScript. Today we'll use that function only. Now we'll write here where output is equals to regex.exec, and inside this we'll pass a string as a parameter. The next thing we'll do is we'll write here console.log and we'll print this output on a console. Now we are good to go. So we are done with it, and the next thing we want to do is to find a particular pattern along with the number present before that pattern in the string. So let's suppose if we write here inside these slashes, if we write here let's say 321. Now this statement here asks the computer to find a pattern 321 in the string. Save it and go to the console. So we'll move to our browser and we'll press Ctrl+Shift+I, and here you can see we have a console here, and here we have an array as well. So here you can see it says, let me zoom it out a bit. Here you can see it says 321 is present at index 28. Now the system finds out that this particular string or this particular regular expression is present here in the string at index number 28. Obviously the indexes will start from 0, and the moment it will find this 321 regular expression, it will show the index number in an array in a console. Now if we add \d here, let's say we are adding here \d in front of this expression and check the output here, save it, you'll notice that we have a number present here right before that expression, right? We have 4321 here instead of just 321. The output here gives us the number 4. This means that this \d represents this number 4 in this string. Now what if we put an alphabet before this expression? Now let's do it. What we'll do is we'll write here A, and let's say we are adding only a single alphabet here. Let's say we are adding A before 321. Now the expected output is A321, but the moment we'll save it, you can see it says null. That's because this particular character class works for digits only. If it finds anything other than a numeric digit, it will return an error or it will return null in that case. Now if we want to find all the numbers before this pattern, then we have to add a plus operator in the regular expression. All we have to do is we have to write here plus and we are good to go. Now it will return everything until it finds a space or any character other than a digit. Now let's suppose if we are writing here A after 987. Now this particular statement will return all the numbers till 6. The moment it will encounter A here, it will return all the numbers after A. It will stop at A and it will not go further. Now save it and you can see it says 654321. That's because this \d works for digits only. Now if we write here nothing, like we have a number 9876543210, save it and it will return the whole number 9876543221, not 0 because we haven't included any number here. Now if we write here again \d after this as well, save it, and here you can see we have the output as 0 as well. We have the whole number here. Fine. So this is how this \d actually works in JavaScript. So this is a character class. Now the next thing is, what if we want to find a non-digit character before a particular pattern? If we write here before 321, let's say we are writing here A, and we want the system to return the non-digit character before 321. In that case, we use capital D instead of small d. Always remember guys, every shorthand character class in Regex have an inverse that does precisely the opposite of that particular class. Like if we have small d here that works for digits only, we also have an inverse which is denoted by \capital D, and it does exactly opposite of this small d here. Now if we write here capital D in place of small d, what will happen is it will return the character here. It will return true for everything other than a digit. Now if we remove this small d from here and save it, here you can see it says null because we haven't included the \ sign here. Save it, and here you can see it says A321. It will return true for anything except for a digit. Even if we put a symbol over here, then also it will return the output as true. For example, if we write here, let's say we are including $sign here. Let's say we are including $2 here. Save it and it will return $2 signs. That's because we are using the plus operator here. Obviously, let's include as many signs as we can. Save it, and here you can see we have all the symbols present over here on our output. So this is how capital D character class works, or we can say inverse character class of small d. This is how it works. Now the next class we'll be going through is the wordly character, denoted by the letter W, small w, and is used in place of any character that can be an alphabet, a number, or an underscore sign. We can use this character over D if we are unsure about the character present before the pattern. For example, if we write here, let's say \W BER. Now here we have used the BER pattern which is present at the end of number, right? Here BER is present at the end of number. Now this statement will return M only because we are not using any plus operator here. If we use any plus operator, then it will return the whole number because it will return everything until it encounters a space or something like that. So for now we are not using any plus operator, so we'll be writing here this only. Now here it will return M because it can take up a number, an alphabet, or an underscore sign. It will return false if it finds any space or something other than these three. These three means a number, an alphabet, or an underscore sign. Fine. Now save it, and you can see on the console that the output says MBER. Let me zoom it a bit. So here you can see the output says MBER, right? Present at index 14. It will return null if we put a space before the pattern. Like if we write here NUM space BER, save it, you can see it says null for this. Now we can use the plus operator as well here for this particular character class. Now what will happen is it will return every character present before the pattern until it encounters a space or something like a symbol or any sort of thing. So let's try it. What we'll do is we'll write here W plus BER, and we'll remove this space from here. Save it, and here you can see it says number. What if we remove this space from here? Remove it, save it, and here you can see it says phone number. It will return every character before the pattern until it finds any space or any other, let's say, symbol. So let's say we are including here dollar, percentage and caret sign. Save it, and here you can see it says NE number. So it's returning it from here because it will not return true for any of the symbols here. Save it, and here you can see we have the output as phone number again, so that's working totally fine. Like the inverse character class for digits, we have the inverse character class for this also, and it returns true for everything other than an alphabet, number or any underscore sign. Now if we write here, instead of small w, let's say we are writing here capital W. And let's do something with the string as well. So let's put a space here again, and we are good to go. We are not doing anything more than that. So it will return null because before BER we have M here, right? If we remove this M with a sign, let's say if we are removing this with a dollar sign or with an empty one, like we are writing here space, nothing, then it will return the index number and the pattern. So let's do it, save it, and here you can see it says dollar, then it says BER, and the index number is 14. You can count the index number, so 0 for U, and then similarly 1 for S, 2 for E, 3 for R, 4 for S, up to 14 for dollar. So dollar is present at index 14. It will return the index number here. Now the plus operator also works for this inverse character class as well. Right here plus BER, and we can insert as many characters or as many symbols as we want. So like here we have inserted so many symbols. This doesn't mean anything, but we are inserting them for example purposes or for practical purpose. So save it, and here you can see we have all the symbols present over here in a array, and the index number is still 14. If we remove these N and U from here, now save it, the index number will change to 11. That's quite easy. Now the next class we have is the simplest of all. This class works for white spaces only. It means that it will return true or give us the index number of the expression from the string only if a white space exists before the pattern. It is denoted by small s and works for spaces only. Now if we write here, let's say \s, okay, we have made a mistake. We'll write here \s and we'll write here phone. So this is the pattern and this is the character class. \s is the character class. Now what we'll do is we'll remove it from here and we'll write the string as this again. We'll write here user's phone number is this and this. Now for this regular expression, it will return the index number of this space. The space is present at index 5. 0 for U, 1 for S, 2 for E, 3 for R, 4 for S, and this space is present at index number 5. So it will return index as 5 for this particular space. Now don't get confused guys for this index number as 5. The index number is for the space present in the screen before the pattern phone. Right. Now if we try to do the same for users as well, let's suppose if we write here users, it will return null in this case because there's no space present before users in the string, right? Save it, and here you can see the output says null in this case. Fine. Now we can also use the plus operator here for more than one spaces present in the string. It will return all the spaces until it finds a character or something other than the spaces. Like if it finds any symbol or any character, then only it will return false. Otherwise for spaces it will return true. So if we write here too many spaces, if we put too many spaces before the word phone, or let's say we are changing this word to phone, save it, and here you can see we have all the spaces here. It's denoted by a single space, but the index number is changed to 19. Now we have so many spaces present here before the pattern phone or before the word phone. So this is how we can use space character class in JavaScript. Now we have also the inverse class for this character class as well. It returns true for everything other than empty spaces. If we write here, let's say we are removing this, and let's say we are and let's say we are writing here users, and we are giving so many spaces here before the word users. Now it will return null in this case because there are spaces present in front of the word users. If we include a character or something in front of this word, then only the output will change and return the index number along with the string. So save it first, and here you can see, okay, we have used the small s. In place of small s, we'll write here capital S. Save it, and you can see here the output says null for capital S, because this capital S will return true for everything other than spaces only. Now if we put here any symbol, let's say we have these symbols here, save it, and here you can see now we have a hash symbol present before the word users. That's because we have used capital S only. Now if we use a plus operator, save it, and here you can see we have all the symbols present in a array. We have the index number as 11, we have dollar, percentage, caret, and hash present over here, right? So this is how the inverse of character spaces in JavaScript actually work. So these are the character classes we have in JavaScript. We discussed all the 6 character classes. 3 of them were inverse. I hope you guys got it. These character classes are sometimes used in place of character sets and ranges, as they make searching and comparing tasks easier for us during the validation process. We'll go through the validation part in the next video. So we'll go through how validation is used with HTML, and then we'll move on to validation with JavaScript. If you guys see, we have 2 text boxes over here. One is for the username and the other one is for the password. Creating such text boxes in HTML is quite an easy task. We have to use the input tag, which we discussed a few sessions back, and we are using some more properties here. So you can see we have type as text for username, and for password the type is password. So before we move on to validation with JavaScript, let me tell you guys that we can do certain things with HTML as well. Like if we want that none of the 2 text boxes over here remains blank, we can write here inside these input tags. So if we write here required, save it, and now if you try to click on this submit button, you can see it says please fill out this field. It will not allow the user to submit the form until there is any value present for the name. So if we write here any random name and submit it now, you can see the form is getting refreshed. That's because we have used the form tag over here. Now if we try to submit without writing anything, we'll get the pop-up as please fill out this field. And we can do the same for password as well. Like if we write here required and save it. Now if you write any name over here for the username, and if we leave this password field blank, submit it, you can see it says please fill out this field for password as well. So HTML can let you do all this stuff, but when it comes to actual validation, like if you want the user to enter only if the name or password matches the one present in the backend, or maybe we can say in the server, we have to use something more than HTML. Now the case with JavaScript is a bit different. If we talk about validation in JavaScript, we can use JavaScript for client-side verification. The scenario here will be the one we'll discuss in today's video. What we'll do today is we'll create a basic sign-up form with 3 text boxes. One is for the username, the other one is for the password, and we'll add one more box for age. Half of the work is already done, and we have to add one more box now for the age. So age is just a number, right? So we can add a text box over here. What we have to do is we have to write here before the submit button, we'll write here input type is equals to number, and we'll provide it the ID as well. So let's say the ID is age. We'll use the ID attribute later, and inside this placeholder we'll write here age. Save it, and here you can see we have 3 text boxes over here. Inside the age we can't write any character or alphabet because we have defined the type as number for this, so we can write numbers here only. Now the next part is to link this page to another web page such that if the credentials are correct, the user will enter the home page of our website. For that we have to use the action attribute in HTML. Now the question here is, when do we want the user to enter the home page? Only if the credentials are correct, right? We have to use the action attribute with the form tag. So you can see over here we have already mentioned the form tag. Now what we'll do is we'll write here action, and what we want is we want it to redirect the user to another page or another web page, the home page of our website, after checking the credentials, and if the credentials are correct, the user will move on to the home page. So we have already a file named homepage.html. So we'll write here homepage.html and save it. Now on clicking the submit button, okay, we have to fill something for name and for password as well. So we'll write random values over here, submit it, and you can see we have been redirected to another page, and this is the home page of our website. However, it doesn't look like a home page. Still, we can assume it, right? So now we know what should be done if the user has correct credentials to enter the home page. We are almost done with the HTML part. We'll make some more changes to this file later. The next thing we have to do is to validate the credentials entered by the user, right? For validation purposes, we'll use the if-else control statements in a JavaScript file. We'll create a function in a JavaScript file and call that function when the user clicks the submit button. But there is a difference. We'll not call the function on clicking the submit button. Instead, we'll call the function on submission of the form. So instead of writing here on click and then calling that function, what we'll do is we'll write here inside the form tag, we'll write on submit. So this is an event, and on submit what will happen is it will call a function named validate. We'll create this validate function in our JavaScript file now. So you can see here we have already used the ID attribute with all the input tags in order to get the values entered by the user. So let's move on to the JavaScript file, and what we'll do here is we'll first declare a function named validate. So we'll write here function, and the function name is validate, and then we have the body of this function. Now we'll take three variables to get all the values entered by the user, because we need to check for all the values, right? So we need to check if the user's name and password match the one we want, and the user should be aged above 13 to enter our website. For all these, we need the values entered by the user. So we'll use the get element by ID method to get all the values. Now for that, we'll take three variables. So let's say the first variable is uname. It will hold the value entered in the username text box. Let me go to the form again. And here you can see we have three text boxes: username, password, and age. So we'll take three variables. For username, we'll write here document dot get element by ID, and the ID is uname. Let me confirm it once. So you can see here the ID for username is uname. For password it is pass, and for age it's age. So we'll write here dot value. The next thing we'll do is we'll create another variable for password. We'll write here again document dot get element by ID, and the ID is pass. We'll again write here dot value, and the third variable will be where age. It will hold the age of the user. So we'll again write here document dot get element by ID, and the ID for age is age. We'll again use the dot value property. Now we are done with the values. We have three variables holding all the values entered by the user. Next up, we'll use these values to validate the data entered by the user. Now the first condition we can have here is that we don't want the user to leave any of the text boxes empty, right? If we click on this submit button, you can see it says please fill out this field. Now we can do it with the help of HTML as well, but for now we are using JavaScript. So we'll remove these required keywords so that we can do it with JavaScript only. Save it and submit it. Now you can see it is redirecting us to the home page of our website. So it's working totally fine. Now what we'll do is we'll write a condition if the user leaves any of these fields empty. So we'll write here if uname is equals to blank, or pass is equals to blank. Okay, pass is equals to blank, or age is equals to blank. Now what will happen is it will give the user a pop-up with the message. Let's say the message is missing credentials. Fine. Save it. And if we leave any of these fields empty now, a pop-up will appear with the message missing credentials. So the first condition is done, but there's a loophole in this condition. So let's check it out first. We'll leave username and password empty, submit it. You can see it says missing credentials, right? Now the next thing is, if we write here, let's say a random name and password as well, but we are leaving this age text box empty, submit it. It still says missing credentials because we haven't entered the age, and it's working totally fine. Now there's a loophole in this condition. The exciting part is it will work fine if the user enters more than one space in all the fields. Like if you are giving here spaces for more than once, and similarly for password as well, submit it. And you can see it says missing credentials because we haven't filled the age. So let's do one thing. We'll write some spaces for username and password, and for age we'll say the age is 4. Submit it, and you can see we have no error over here. Now to overcome this problem, we have a predefined JavaScript method that treats all the spaces the same. No matter the number of spaces, whether it be one or more than one, it will treat all the same. We have to include the trim method within the if-else statement. So what we'll do is we'll write here dot trim for username, and similarly for password as well, we'll write here trim, and for age as well, let's say dot trim, and save it. Now move back to our sign up form, and if we try to give more than one spaces here, and let's say the age is 4, submit it, you can see it says missing credentials for more than one spaces as well. So this is working totally fine. Now the following condition will be for validating the name. Let's say the required name is Kaushal or anything else. The required password is, let's say, 12345, and the age should be more than 13. Then only the user can enter the website. So for that we have to use the else if statement, and what we'll do is we'll write here else if, and inside this we'll give our conditions. So let's say the conditions are uname is equals to Kaushal, and pass is equals to 12345, and age should be greater than or is equals to 13. Then it will give the user a pop-up, and which states that we'll write here alert, we'll write here sign up successful. Fine. Save it. Now the user can enter the website with these credentials only, otherwise a pop-up will appear. So let's give the else condition as well. What we'll do is we'll write here else, and we'll use another alert. Inside this we'll write wrong ID and password. Fine. Now we have all the conditions here. Save it, and now we'll check for different inputs. So let's move back to our form, and what we'll do is we'll write the username is, let's say, Ravi, and the password is, let's say, any random numbers, and the age is, let's say, 6. Submit it, and you can see it says wrong ID and password. Now what we'll do is we'll give it the correct credentials. We'll write here Kaushal, and the password will be 12345, and the age is, let's say, 21. Fine. The age should be greater than or equals to 13. So submit it, and you can see it says sign up successful. Now we have different conditions over here. Like if we write here any random name, and if we write here any random password, now it will return wrong ID and password. But if we write here correct ID and password and correct username as well, let's say we are writing here Kaushal, and let's say the age will change to 11. Submit it, and you can see it still says wrong ID and password. We can add one more condition over here, like we'll write here else if age is less than 12, it will give an alert that you are underaged or some sort of that. So we'll write here else if age is less than 13, an alert which states underaged. Fine. Save it. And what we'll do is we'll move back to our form and we'll write here Kaushal. Password is 12345 and age is, let's say, 11. Submit it and you can see it says underaged now. So it is working totally fine. Now, one thing that seems a bit irritating as well is it redirects us to the home page every time, right? It doesn't matter if the credentials are correct or not, it redirects. To overcome this issue, we have to make some minor changes in the HTML file and include the return keyword in a if-else conditional statements. So let's go back to our HTML file and what we'll do is we'll write here inside the form tag. Now we have on submit over here. So what we'll do is we'll write return before validate. So save it and we'll move back to our JavaScript file. Now this return keyword will let the form perform any action only if the value returned by the function validate is true. Otherwise, it will not allow the form tag to perform any action. The action here is redirecting the user to the home page, right? So let's do it here. We know that the function should return true only if all the credentials are valid. So we'll write here for all other conditions, we'll write return false. Fine. For this one, we'll write return true because this is the condition when all the credentials are correct. And for all other conditions, we'll write return false. Similarly for else as well, we'll write here return false. Now save it and we'll move back to our sign up form. Save the HTML file as well once. And what we'll do is we'll write here Kaushal, password is 123 and age is, let's say, 4. Submit it. You can see it says underaged. Click on OK and now it is not redirecting us to the home page, right? Now if the credentials are correct, what we'll do is we'll write here the password is 12345 and the age is, let's say, 21. Submit it. Now you can see it says sign up successful. Click on OK and you can see we are in the home page. It is working totally fine. So if all the credentials are valid, then it is redirecting us to the home page, exactly what we wanted. So these are the basics of validation in JavaScript. Obviously, we can't validate a form with JavaScript in the real world because we don't have to deal with one user only. We need the backend to do all the validation and all. But simple validation can be done with the help of JavaScript. We did it just now. We have many things to do with validation in JavaScript, like adding some more conditions or using regular expressions to validate forms in JavaScript. Using regular expressions for validation in JavaScript is what we already saw in the previous videos. So we have gone through it already. I want you guys to show some creativity and do something new on this topic and let us know what you have done in the comment box. Today we'll add another text box here wherein the user will enter the mobile number and then we'll validate it in two different ways. So let's add another text box here. What we'll do is we'll write here input type is equals to number and let's give it the ID as well. So let's say the ID is mobile and the placeholder will say enter your mobile number. Fine. Save it. So you can see we have another text box here. What we'll do is we'll add a break tag here. We'll write here BR. Save it now. So this is our form. And here we have username, password, age and mobile number. One thing to notice here is we can use the type as text as well. As we are using mobile number that consists of digits only. So we are using type as numbers here. So let's move on to the JavaScript file. And we'll do the rest of the part there. So we'll take the user's input and store it inside a variable to compare it, right? So let's add another variable here. Here you can see we already have three variables for username, password and age. We'll add one more. So let's say the variable name is where mob is equals to. We'll use the document dot get element by ID attribute. So we'll write here get element by ID, and the ID we used is mobile. So let's cross check it once. So here's the ID mobile, and we'll take the value. We'll write here dot value. So this variable mob holds the user's mobile number and will make certain changes to this existing if-else statement. So the first thing we'll be doing is we'll check if the user is writing something inside the text box or not. So we'll add another condition here. We'll write here mob dot trim is equals to space. If the user leaves this box empty, so this will pop up in his screen and it will say missing credentials, right? Next up, we'll change this condition as well. We'll write here and. So let's say the mobile number is 09876543221, some sort of this, and we'll write here mob is equals to 0 to 1. Now the last thing we are doing here is we'll be adding one more else if to check if user enters any other mobile number than this one. So like we did for age, similarly we'll do it for mobile number as well. So we'll write here else if mob not is equals to 09876543221, then it will return wrong mobile number. And it will also return false. Save it. Now we have made three changes here. First one is we added the mob.trim so that the user won't leave this space empty. The next one is we checked if the number entered by the user matches the one we have in our system. And the last one is for the number entered by the user doesn't match, then it will return wrong mobile number. Fine. So we are done with it. You can check it here. We have a condition here. If the mobile number does not matches, it will return wrong mobile number. So let's do it here. We know the username is Kaushal, the password is 12345, and the age should be above 13, right? So let's say we are writing here 15. Now here we are in the mobile number. So let's add a random number here. What we'll do is we'll write this and submit it. You can see it says wrong mobile number. Fine. Now the next thing is we'll write here 09876543221. Let's suppose this is the mobile number. Submit it and you can see it says sign up successful and it will redirect us to the home page. Now this is working totally fine, and this is the traditional way of checking the phone number of a user, only if we already know what the user has to put in the text box to enter the website. Now the next thing we'll be doing is pretty simple as well, but for that method one should have a clear understanding of regular expressions in JavaScript. Now we'll use Regex to validate the user's phone number. And if you haven't watched the previous videos on regular expressions yet, I suggest you to go through it before mobile number validation in JavaScript, and this task of validation will be so easy for you guys. So what we'll do is we'll move on to another HTML file. Let's create one here first. So we'll create another HTML file. Let's say the HTML file name is mobile.html. And here what we'll do is we'll create another text box. So let me connect it to another JavaScript file first, and we'll create another JavaScript file as well. Fine. So we'll write here mobile.js. So this is a JavaScript file, and the next thing we'll be doing is we'll write a heading here. So let's say we are writing mobile number validation in JavaScript. Fine. Save it and open it with live server. So here is a new HTML file and this is the JavaScript file. So the next thing we'll be doing here is we'll create another text box, right? We'll create a single text box. So we'll write here input type is equals to text. We can either use numbers here as well, and then we'll use the ID attribute. So we have to do it later, but we are doing it right now. Placeholder as mobile number. Fine. Now we'll create a submit button as well. We'll write here input type is equals to button and value is equals to submit. What we'll do is we'll call a function on clicking this submit button. So we'll use the onClick event here as well. So we'll write here onClick, and let's say the function name is well. Fine. Good to go. Save it. And here you can see we have a text box for mobile number and a submit button over here. So what we'll do next is we'll move on to the JavaScript file to create this val function. Now we'll create a function, and that function will check if the number entered by the user is in the proper format or not. So let's create a function first. We'll go to a JavaScript file and we'll write here function val. So this is the name of our function, and then we have the body as well. Now the next thing we'll be doing is we'll be writing a program here. So what we'll do is we'll first take a variable. Let's say the variable name is var_mobile, and this variable will hold the value entered by the user, right? So we'll write here document dot get element by id. So here's a id is, I guess, mobile. So let's check it once. So here you can see we have the id as mobile. Now what we'll do is we'll write here dot value to get the value entered by the user. And now what we are doing is we are using regular expressions for this purpose, right? So we'll create another variable for the regular expression, and we'll leave it empty for now because we'll change it later. First we'll write the whole program. So what we'll do is we'll again use the if else control statement. So the first condition will remain the same. We'll write here mobile.trim to check if the user is leaving the place empty or not. And in this condition, here we'll write alert, and then inside alert we'll write please enter a mobile number. Fine. I hope you guys got it. So you can see here we are getting an error here in the if statement. That's because we haven't written something over here. So if we write something inside a regular expression, so the error will go. But for now we are not using any regular expression because I'll explain it to you after this. So leave it here only for now. The next condition will be writing here using the else if. So we'll write here else if, and we'll use this regex variable with the test function to validate the user's mobile number. So we'll write here regex dot test, and we'll pass this mobile number as a parameter to check, right, to compare between regex variable and the mobile variable. So we'll write here mobile. Fine. Now this else if will return something, so we'll use the alert method again. We'll write here mobile number submitted successfully. Now you might be thinking why we are doing so, because we know that this test function is used to compare the values, and if this test function will return true, then only a pop-up will appear with the message mobile number submitted successfully. I hope you guys already know about this test function. We have already discussed it a few sessions back when we came across regular expressions in JavaScript. So I think it might be easy for you guys. And at last we'll write here else for any other input. So we'll again use the alert method, and we'll write here wrong mobile number. Fine. Here we have written everything inside this function, even the conditions as well. We have three cases over here. The first one is if the user leaves the field empty and tries to submit. The next one is for checking the number entered by the user, and the last one is for everything else. So we haven't written the regular expression yet because let's discuss it before writing. So guys, what we want is we want a 10-digit mobile number, and the number should start from either 7, 8 or 9, because we know mobile numbers generally starts with these digits, either 7 or 8 or 9. Fine. Then it has 10 digits only. Now for checking the length of the mobile number, we could have used the mobile.length property, right? But the regular expression gives us a simple and easy method to do so. We discussed the shorthand character classes in Regex a few sessions back, right? So now we want all the inputs to be digits only. So what we'll do is we'll write here inside this regular expression \d. So this is a shorthand character class, and we'll use these curly braces, and we'll write here 10 inside this. So this statement over here will check the length of the string, but we have to do some more things here. The next thing we need to do is the initial digit of a mobile number. That can be 7, 8 or 9. So for that, what we'll do is we'll define a range for initial number and we'll write here before this character class. What we'll do is we'll define a range over here. So we'll use square brackets and we'll write here 7 to 9. Now this particular statement defines a range that consists of only 3 numbers, 7, 8 or 9. Now this regular expression is sort of complete, we can say. Now one thing we have to keep in mind, that we have to write here 9 now instead of 10. That's because we have already defined the first number, right? And we need 9 more digits apart from that particular digit. So let's check it out. Save it and we'll write a mobile number here. So let's say the mobile number is this 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8, and what will happen is it will return wrong mobile number. That's because the number here starts from 1 instead of 7, 8 or 9. So submit it and you can see it says wrong mobile number. Now we'll try for another condition. We'll leave this field blank and submit it. You can see it says please enter a mobile number. So this is also working fine. Now the next thing we'll be doing is we'll be starting the number from 9 and let's say the number is this. So this is a 10-digit mobile number. Submit it and you can see it says mobile number submitted successfully. So this is also working fine. Now the only problem here is if we write anything before this particular phone number, like if we write here before 9, if we let's say we are writing here A, B, C, D, E, any character or alphabet as well, submit it, you can see it still says mobile number submitted successfully. Now it will not give any error because it finds the expression present in the string. Right, we have to mention the starting and the end points of a regular expression for this purpose. We have two meta characters. One denotes the start, that is the caret character, and the other one denotes the end of the string, that is the $sign. So we'll add both of them in our expression. What we'll do is we'll write here caret. This will denote the start of the string, and here we'll write $. This will denote the end of the string. Save it. And now it will work fine. And one more thing guys, don't misunderstand this caret character with the one we use inside the brackets to exclude any particular string. Like if we remove this from here and if we insert this caret character inside this bracket, what will happen is it will exclude this particular range. It will exclude 7, 8 or 9. We have already discussed the use of this caret character. Now if we write it here, it will denote the start of a string. So you will not get confused if the concept of meta characters and character sets are clear to you. So let's check the output. Save it and we'll check for certain phone numbers now. We'll check for that particular condition only. We'll write here 9876543210. So this is a correct mobile number. If you submit it, it will say mobile number submitted successfully. But now if you write here something before this 9876. Now if we write here any characters or alphabets and submit it, you can see it says wrong mobile number because we have used the caret character and we want at the start of the string either 7, 8 or 9. Now similar thing will happen at the end as well. If you write here anything and submit it, you can see it says wrong mobile number because we have added $sign as well. Fine. Remove it. And if you are adding any numbers here as well, save it. And you can see it still says wrong mobile number because the length is more than 10 and the end will be denoted after 9 digits. So these are the 9 digits and this is the end of the string according to a regular expression. So these are the ways how we can validate a user's phone number in JavaScript. We already know a lot about validation by now. We came across validation several times. So let's move on to the programming part directly and we'll create a text box here to take the user's input. So what we'll do is we'll create a text box. We'll write here input type is equals to email, ID here as let's say mail. Fine. The next thing will be a placeholder and the placeholder will say enter email ID here. Fine. We'll close this input tag, and the next thing we'll be doing is we'll be creating a submit button. We'll write here type is equals to button, value will be submit, and we'll use the on click event. So we'll write here on click. So we'll call a function on clicking this button. We'll write here validate. We'll create this validate function in a JavaScript file. Now save this piece of code, and you can see we have a text box and submit button here. Now if you write here something, you can see nothing is happening over here. Now the next task we have to do is the one we already know. We'll move on to the JavaScript file. We'll create a function there and use the if-else control statements to check if the email ID entered by the user is in accordance with the pattern or not. Quite a simple task because we have been doing it for quite some time, right? So let's do it quickly. What we'll do is we'll move to a JavaScript file. I forgot to create one here, so let me create one, and the name will be email.js. So this is a JavaScript file. We'll create a function here. So we'll write here function validate. The next thing is the body of this function. So we'll write here everything other than the regular expression because the rest will remain the same as mobile number validation. So we'll write here, we'll create a variable here. We'll write here where email is equals to, we'll write here document.getElement by ID, and the ID is mail. Now we'll use the dot value attribute. The next thing is we'll again take a variable for regular expression and we'll leave it for now. We'll move on to the next part. What we'll do here is we'll use the if-else control statement again. So the first condition will remain the same. We'll write here if email.trim is equals to null. Then what it will do is it will give a pop-up. So we'll use the alert keyword, and inside this we'll write please enter a valid email ID. Fine. The next thing we'll do is we'll use the test function in regular expressions. So we'll write here else if regex.test, and we'll pass this email variable as a parameter. Here it will check if the input given by the user matches the pattern of the regular expression. We'll check for it. So we'll write here alert, and inside this we'll write email submitted successfully. Fine. And at the last we'll use the else statement, and we'll write here alert wrong email ID. Fine. Save it. Now we are almost done with everything apart from the regular expression. We didn't define the regex until now because we'll discuss it first. Because you know guys, using a regular expression for email validation is slightly different from other things. Like we have several parts for a regular expression. Let's discuss it first. So let's take an email ID first. So let me write here. Let's say we have an email ID as kaushal@simplilearn.com. Fine. We can't write here two dots. So this is what a primary email ID looks like. An email ID consists of four parts. The first part is the name. That can be anything. It can have alphabets, digits, or sometimes dot and underscore as well. So we can have the name as, like if we write here, let's say Kaushal11, or if we write here Kaushal.11, or we can write here Kaushal_011. Right. So these names are allowed in an email ID. The next part is the @ symbol. It's mandatory to add the symbol in each email ID, as you know. So the third part is the domain name. That can be the name of any particular organization. Like here Simplilearn is the domain name, or it can be Gmail or Yahoo or Hotmail or any of these. So that depends on the user where they have their email ID. Now the last part is the extension, which comes after a dot. So after this dot we have an extension over here. This com is an extension. Fine. An extension can be .com, it can be .in or .net, or it can be .co.in. So now that we have an idea about how an email ID looks like, the next thing we'll be doing is working here on the regular expression to create a particular format of this type. Right, so we have 4 parts, but we have to compulsorily add an @ symbol and a dot before the extension. So what we'll do is we'll take 3 pairs of parentheses or round brackets, we can say, for defining the rest 3 parts. So what we'll do is we'll write here. So we need 3 parentheses, right? Now we have to mention @ and dot compulsorily here. Fine. The rest will define, but we have to add these 2 symbols compulsorily in each email ID. The caret and the dollar signs are meta characters used to define the regular expressions starting and the endpoints, right? So I hope you guys are clear with regular expressions till now, as this is the last video on this topic. And still, if you have any doubts about regex, feel free to comment your doubts and we'll get back to you. So let's define the first part here. The first part is the name consisting of alphabets, digits, or some specific symbols like dot and underscore, right? We'll define a range here. So we'll use square brackets to define the range. So what we'll do is we'll write here A to Z or A to Z or 0 to 9. Fine. Here we have defined 3 ranges: a range for small letter alphabets, capital letter alphabets, and a range of numbers from 0 to 9. Now we could have used the global modifier at the end of this regular expression instead of defining a range of capital letter alphabets. We have already discussed the concept of modifiers a few sessions back. Now the next thing is to add specific symbols like dot and underscore. We can't write them simply because if we write here dot or underscore, the meaning will change and it will return true for any character in place of dot. The concept of meta characters, remember? So we have to put a backslash before writing the symbols. What we'll do is we'll put a backslash over here. Now we have added the special symbols as well. The next part is the length of this name. Now it can be either 10 or maybe 20, or we can say in some cases, let's suppose it can go more than 20. Now what we can do is we can either define the length inside curly braces like this. We can write here 2, 20. So this is the range for length, but we can't do it here because we are keeping this thing in mind that the username might go above 20 characters. So what we'll do is we'll use the plus operator. The plus operator will let the user enter the name as long as they want. Instead of using these curly braces over here, what we'll do is we'll use the plus operator here. Fine. Now the next part is for the domain name. After this @ symbol over here, what we'll do is we'll write the domain name. That has to be there in each email ID, right? The domain name can be the name of any organization, as we have already discussed. We don't need digits in the domain name, right? So what we'll do is we'll simply write here A to Z and A to Z. So we have defined 2 ranges for domain name, one for the small letters and the other one is for the capital letter alphabets. Fine, we did it almost the same as name. Now again the domain name can be of any length, so we have to use the plus operator here. What we'll do is we'll first put them inside square brackets. I forgot to mention them here, and then we'll use the plus operator. Now the regular expression looks a bit complicated, right? But we don't have to worry about it because these all are easy things, just a little bit lengthy, we can say. So the next thing we'll be doing here is we'll be going through the last part of a email ID. After this dot symbol, what we have to do is we have to define another range for the extension. Right, the extension can be any alphabet with a length not more than 6 to 7, right? So what we'll do is we'll write here A to Z only consists of small letters, or we can include capital letters as well. So what we'll do is we'll write here A to Z as well. Now the next thing we'll do is we'll define the length of this extension. So we don't need the plus operator here because the length of any extension can't be more than 4, 5 or 6 maybe, right? So what we'll do is we'll define a range of length. We'll write here 2 and 6. So 2 is the minimum length of extension and 6 is the maximum length. Now save it and let's check the output. So we'll check for several email IDs now. What we'll do is we'll write here abc@gmail.com. Fine. Submit it. You can see it says email submitted successfully. Let me zoom it out a bit. The next thing we'll do here is we'll write here abc_11@gmail.com. So one thing we have forgotten here is to include the caret character and the dollar character. So we have to specify the starting and the end point here. So what we did is we have included the caret character and the dollar sign here. Now we'll write here abc_11@gmail.com. Submit it, and you can see it says email submitted successfully. So this is a valid email ID. Now the next thing we'll be doing here is we'll be using any random symbol. So let's say we are using here abc*@gmail.com. Submit it, and you can see it says wrong email ID. Now the next thing we'll be doing here is we'll write any number here, let's say, and we'll write here Kaushal112.3. Fine. So this will return wrong email ID because we have included numbers in domain name and we haven't defined any range of numbers for the domain name. Submit it, and you can see it says wrong email ID. Now remove these numbers from here and submit it. You can see it says email submitted successfully. So this is working totally fine. Now the last thing is, what if we have an email like kaushal112.3@gmail.co.in. Submit it, and you can see it says wrong email ID. In this case, we have to define another range in the regular expression that can be optional. So we have the question mark symbol that acts as an optional character. It means that any range or anything written before this meta character will be optional. So we'll use this symbol and we'll write here before this dollar sign. We'll again use parenthesis and we'll write here dot A to Z, and then we'll define the range as 2,6, and we'll use the question mark sign here, or we can say this optional meta character here. Save it, and now what if we write here kaushal@gmail.co.in. Now submit it, and you can see it says email submitted successfully, and this is totally optional. If we write here kaushal@gmail.com, submit it, and you can see it still works fine. So this is how we can validate a user's email ID in JavaScript. We can do a lot more stuff in this. I want you guys to do it. So that's all for this video, guys. If this video helped you anyhow, do give it a thumbs up. Comment your doubts below, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe Simplilearn. Thank you.
Hi there, if you like this video, subscribe to the Simplilearn YouTube channel and click here to watch similar videos. To nerd up and get certified, click here.